In this video, let's take a look at prepositions. So that's a big word, but really you know what they are. Those are words like to, in, of, those little words. So let's review prepositions. So they are the words that we use to connect nouns, noun phrases, and pronouns together. They're connecting words. And they show relationships like time, place, direction, spatial relationships like next to, on top of, under, and introductions as well. And some common ones, there are a lot, and you can see them all here. In, at, by, into, onto, and so on. All right, a lot of them. And something that is kind of annoying about English, but we just have to accept it, is that there aren't really too many rules about prepositions. We'll look at some rules in this video, but in general, they're idiomatic. That means they kind of make up their own rules, and we just have fixed ways of using them. So the best way to remember them is to read lots of sentences that use them in the correct way and just remember those sentences. So how are prepositions used? So they can be used at the start of a sentence, in the middle of a sentence, or at the end of a sentence, and we can have many of them in an individual sentence. Let's take a look at some examples. I live on Madison Street in Lower East Side, New York City. There are 2 green fields next to the school buildings. On Fridays, I finish work a bit earlier, usually around 3 p.m. And then the last one has a lot. I'm listening to the entire Led Zeppelin discography at the moment. There is so much music on Spotify to explore and listen to. All right, so there you go. Just some examples to give you a feeling and a reminder about how we use prepositions. Now, one of the rules that we can learn is related to prepositions and gerunds. So, what are gerunds? Gerunds are when we get a verb and we put the ing ending on the end, like running, dancing, singing. But we use it as a noun. We don't use it as a verb. For example, I like singing. Singing in that sentence is a noun. It's a gerund, okay? And here's the rule. If a gerund is used immediately after a preposition, the verb must take the gerund form. All right, so what does that mean? Let's take a look at some examples. So, after leaving work. So the after is the preposition, and it's not after leave work or after to leave work, it's after leaving work. So that verb leave becomes a gerund, it becomes a noun, all right? So there's one example. Another one, instead of, that's our preposition, instead of going straight home after work. Again, so it's not instead of go, it's instead of going. And finally, by working, by the preposition, and working is the gerund, the verb. By working harder than anyone else, he succeeded. Okay? So that is a general rule, but there is one very important exception, one time when we don't follow that rule. So you can see the little box. So this doesn't include to, when verbs use to in the infinitive form, like to do, to go, to sleep. For example, if we say, I need to, it would be, I need to sleep, not I need to sleeping, even though to is a preposition. Okay, so that's the one exception. Other than that, we should follow this rule. Let's talk about some general rules for prepositions of place now. So what are prepositions of place? They are used to show the position of something related to something else, all right? And we'll see some examples in a minute. But in general, if we use the word in, it's going to be putting a noun or a thing or a person in a large area. Could be in a country, in a city, or in a neighborhood. If we use at, it's a very specific, exact location. Okay, so in is something very big, at is a very specific location, and on is usually on top of something else. Okay, so it could be on a bed, on a computer screen, and things like that. And we've got a lot of examples that you can look at here as well. We'll be in the waiting room when you're done. So the waiting room is like a big area, and we'll be somewhere in that waiting room. The kids are playing in the back garden, so it could be quite a big garden. I was born in Portugal, but I grew up in Spain in the countryside. Again, all big areas. Then at, he's working at his desk in the room next door. So your desk is like one fixed, specific place at your desk. We'll meet you at the entrance when you're finished inside. So like just at the door. You can drop me off at the next corner, then I'll meet you at the field when you find parking. Okay? And then on, your phone is on the kitchen counter. So the counter is the thing on the top in the kitchen when you do your chopping and you do things like that. So it's on top of that. Did you go hiking this weekend? There's a lot of dirt and mud on your clothes. Your clothes are very dirty. Your clothes need a wash. There's lots of dirt and mud on your clothes. And finally, be careful walking barefoot in the kitchen. I broke a cup in here this morning and there is glass on the floor. So what you can do if you want to study these by yourself, you can learn these specific sentences as a way of reminding you. Because I'm sure that you might be watching this and thinking, well, at the field, surely a field is a big place. But remember, as I said at the start, English is quite idiomatic with its prepositions. So we kind of have the way that we say things, and it follows some kind of rule, but really you just have to remember when we use this one and when we use that one. So that's why having these example sentences to learn and practice by yourself is a very important thing. And of course, if we want to give more details, we can use what are called precise prepositions of place. So these ones show like exactly where that thing is, where the noun is. And some examples really help here. So my degree is hanging on the wall. So on is already a preposition. Above my bookshelf. So the above gives even more details. I live near the train station next to the old fire station. So again, it's more detailed, more specific. My cat's favorite place to sleep is between, or we can say in between. It's the same. Me and my wife. The rubbish bin is in the cupboard. Okay, so it's in. So we know it's somewhere in the cupboard. But we give more details and say below or beneath or under or underneath the sink. There's a mop and broom behind the kitchen door. Please park on the grass on the opposite side of the road. So 3 different prepositions there, giving a very specific place that you should park. Sorry I'm late. I got stuck behind a truck all the way here.